I called my daughter-in-law to confirm the date of the wedding with my son. She answered, "It's none of your business, you witch. We only want special people." The next day she called me desperate. "Mother-in-law, you doubled the price of our rent by mistake. I'm glad to have you here. Follow my story to the end and comment what city you are watching me from. That way I can see how far my story has reached. My name is Pauline. I am 63 years old, and I never thought a simple phone call could shatter my heart the way it did." It was a Tuesday afternoon when I decided to call my daughter-in-law Tara to confirm some details about the wedding of my son Gabriel. After all, as the groom's mother, I figured I had the right to know at least the exact time of the ceremony. Gabriel is my only child. I raised him alone after his father walked out on us when he was just 8 years old. I worked double shifts at the textile factory for years to put him through college, to give him everything he needed. When he met Tara 3 years ago, I was happy he had found love. She seemed like a polite girl, always smiling when she came over for Sunday dinners. But things changed after the engagement. The visits became less frequent. Gabriel seemed distant, like he was walking on eggshells every time we were together. I chalked it up to wedding jitters, the pressure of planning a new life. I dialed Tara's number around 3 in the afternoon. The phone rang several times before she picked up. Her voice sounded irritated from the very first second. "What do you want?" she snapped, not even bothering to say hello. "Hi, Tara," I replied, trying to keep my tone friendly. "I just wanted to confirm the time for the ceremony on Saturday. I also wanted to ask if you need help with anything." There was a heavy silence on the other end of the line. Then I heard voices in the background, women laughing. I realized she was with her friends. "Are you seriously bothering me for that?" Her voice got louder, like she wanted the other people in the room to hear her. "Look, Pauline, I don't know how to say this more clearly." My stomach tightened. Something in her tone warned me that whatever was coming next wasn't going to be good. "The wedding is only for special people. Do you understand? We don't want people to feel uncomfortable." The words hit me like a punch to the chest. "What do you mean by that, Tara?" "Oh, don't play dumb," she replied with a cruel little laugh. "It's none of your business, you old hag. We only want special people, people who actually matter in our lives." The world stopped spinning. Hag. She had called me a hag, and worse, she was telling me I wasn't invited to my own son's wedding. "Tara, I'm Gabriel's mother," I whispered. My voice was shaking. "Yeah, and he agrees with me. We don't want any drama on our perfect day." I heard more laughter in the background. Her friends were hanging on to every word, enjoying the spectacle of the mother-in-law being humiliated. "Gabriel agrees with this?" I asked, feeling like someone had just knocked all the air out of my lungs. "Of course he does. He knows you're difficult, always trying to control everything, always sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. We don't want that negative energy on our special day." Tears started rolling down my cheeks, but I kept my voice as steady as I could. "I want to speak with Gabriel. He's working, and honestly, we already talked about this. The decision is made. Tara, I've been planning for this day since Gabriel was a little boy. I've saved money too." "Nobody asked you to save anything," she cut me off. "Besides, my parents are already taking care of everything. They can actually afford to do things right." That last sentence felt like a slap across the face. I had worked my entire life, sacrificed everything for my son, and now I was being told I wasn't good enough, that I didn't have the financial means to measure up to their perfect wedding. "I have to hang up," I said, my voice finally cracking. "Fine. And Pauline?" Her voice turned even crueler. "Don't make a scene when Gabriel gets home. He's under enough stress without you adding to it." The line went dead. I just sat there in my small kitchen, holding the phone in dead silence, while tears dripped onto the very table where Gabriel had done his homework for all those years. I couldn't believe what had just happened. My son, the little boy who had cried in my arms after a nightmare, the young man who promised he would always take care of me, had shut me out of his wedding. And he had done it through this ruthless woman who had just ripped my heart to shreds. That night, Gabriel didn't even call. I spent the next few hours sitting in the dark of my living room, staring at the photos of him on the walls. His college graduation, his first job, all those little victories we had celebrated together. And now the biggest one of all, his wedding. And I wouldn't be there. The loneliness felt like a physical weight pressing down on my chest. For the first time in years, I felt entirely alone in the world. The son I had sacrificed everything for had chosen a woman who despised me over the mother who raised him. I had no idea that the very next day my life was going to take a turn that neither Tara nor Gabriel could have ever seen coming. I woke up the next morning with swollen eyes and a heavy heart. I had spent the entire night tossing and turning, replaying every vicious word Tara had thrown at me. But right around 10 in the morning, my phone rang. Tara's name flashed across the screen, and for a second, I hesitated to pick up. When I finally did, her voice sounded entirely different. She wasn't the cruel, dismissive woman from the day before. Now she sounded desperate, hovering right on the edge of a panic attack. "Pauline, Mom." I frowned. She had never called me that before. It was always just Pauline. And that was only when she bothered to speak to me with any respect at all. "What do you want, Tara?" I answered. My voice was ice. I have a really huge problem. You wouldn't have done something with the rent for our apartment, would you?" "What are you talking about?" "The landlord, well, someone from the building, just told us the rent is going to double next month. Gabriel almost passed out when he heard. They said it was the owner's decision, but it has to be a mistake, right?" My heart started beating a little faster. During that whole awful conversation yesterday, I had completely forgotten about a very important detail. A detail that neither Gabriel nor Tara knew about. "And why exactly are you asking me?" I said, keeping my tone perfectly neutral. "Why? Because I thought maybe you could, I don't know, maybe you know someone in the building who can help us? Gabriel is freaking out. He says we can't afford to pay double, not with the wedding expenses and everything." Ah, so now she needed my help. Now I was family, not a hag. "Where do you live again?" I asked, even though I knew the answer perfectly well. "At the St. Martin Building, apartment 402. Do you know it?" The St. Martin Building, the very same building my sister Eleanor had left me in her will 5 years ago. Eleanor never married, never had kids, and when cancer took her, she left me 3 properties. Her house, where I lived now, a small commercial storefront, and the St. Martin Building with its 12 apartments. I had kept this entirely to myself, managing the properties through a real estate agency. Gabriel knew I inherited his aunt's house, but I never breathed a word about the rest of it. At the time, I figured it was best to keep it as my safety net for old age, something to guarantee my independence. Gabriel had found that apartment 2 years ago, when he moved in with Tara. The rent was significantly lower than anything else in the area, and he was so thrilled to find a place they could actually afford. He never had a clue that his own mother was the landlord. "I'm familiar with the building," I said carefully. "Do you think you could talk to someone? Pauline, please. We really need your help. Gabriel is so stressed out he hasn't slept a wink all night." The irony was absolutely delicious. The exact same woman who called me a hag yesterday and banned me from the wedding was now begging for my mercy. "And Gabriel? Does he want me to help you two as well?" There was a long pause. He's too proud to ask you directly, but yes, he really wants your help." "But yesterday you told me I wasn't important in your lives." "Pauline, please, that was just a huge misunderstanding. I was stressed about the wedding. I didn't mean it. You said you didn't want me at the wedding because I was an old hag." It was a mistake. I was with my friends and I felt pressured to look, I don't know, independent. "But of course you're important to Gabriel." Liar. I could hear the absolute fake desperation dripping from every syllable, but I decided to play along. "So, am I invited to the wedding then?" Another long pause. "It's just that we already sent out the invitations and the venue has a really strict capacity limit." And there it was. The truth again. She still didn't want me at that wedding, but now she needed my lifeline. "I understand," I said simply. "So are you going to help us? Please, Pauline. We don't know what to do. Gabriel is talking about canceling the wedding because we won't be able to afford the apartment afterward." I stayed quiet for a long moment, just thinking. I held the power to solve their problem in an instant, but I also held the power to let them feel what real desperation tasted like. "I'll see what I can do," I finally said. "Really? Oh, Pauline, you are an absolute angel. I knew we could count on you." An angel. Yesterday, I was a hag. Today, I'm an angel. "I'm not promising anything, Tara, but I'll make a few phone calls." Thank you so much. Gabriel is going to be so relieved. Should I tell him you talked to me? No, I answered quickly. Let me see what I can find out first. I don't want to give him false hope. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a solid hour, just staring out the window. I held cards in my hand that neither Gabriel nor Tara knew existed. Not only was I the landlord of their apartment, but I had total, unquestioned control over their entire situation. The property management company had called me just last week to let me know a few units in the building were sitting empty. They suggested a rent hike across the board to offset the losses. I had greenlit the increase for every single unit, including 402, completely unaware that it was Gabriel's home. But now I knew. And now I had to decide exactly what to do with that piece of information. For the first time since that humiliating phone call yesterday, a small smile crept onto my face. Maybe it was time Gabriel and Tara learned that actions have consequences. And maybe it was time they found out who was actually holding all the power in this little dynamic. The next few days were the strangest of my entire life. For the first time in years, I was in the driver's seat of a situation involving Gabriel, and the feeling was both incredibly liberating and deeply terrifying. I decided not to reveal right away that I owned the building. Instead, I wanted to watch. I wanted to see exactly how Gabriel and Tara would react when the walls really started closing in. On Wednesday morning, I called the management company. Good morning, this is Pauline Vega. I wanted to discuss the rent increase for apartment 402 at the St. Martin building. Yes, Mrs. Vega. Is there a problem? Not a problem exactly. I just wanted to confirm that the increase is proceeding exactly as planned. Of course. The 100% increase goes into effect next month, just as you authorized. 100%. I had forgotten it was quite that drastic. But backing down now would just raise eyebrows. Perfect. And if the tenants can't pay, what's the procedure? Well, we follow standard protocol. First, a 30-day notice, then the eviction process if payment isn't received. Understood. Keep me posted on any developments. I felt strange after hanging up. I've never been a vindictive person by nature, but Tara's words had cut me to the bone. Hag, we don't want people like you. As if every single sacrifice I ever made for my son meant absolutely nothing. That afternoon, Gabriel called me. His voice sounded tight, exhausted. Mom, how are you? I'm good, sweetheart. How are you? Well, I'm dealing with some problems. Money problems? What kind of problems? The landlord for our apartment is doubling the rent. I don't know what we're going to do. Tara is a wreck. Can't you look for another place? With the wedding this close, it's impossible. Plus, we've blown so much money on the ceremony that we don't even have enough for a deposit on a new place. I could hear the sheer panic in his voice, and for a split second, my mother's heart softened. But then I remembered I wasn't even allowed at the very wedding they were drowning in debt for. Have you tried talking to the owner directly? It's impossible to reach them. Everything goes through a property management company, and they said the decision is final. I'm so sorry, Gabriel. Is there anything I can do to help? There was a long pause. Well, Tara mentioned that maybe you know someone in the building. Tara told you to call me? Not exactly. I mean, yeah, we talked about it, but I wanted to call you too. Mom, I know things have been tense between us lately. Tense? Why, Gabriel? Another pause. Because of the wedding? And well, Tara thinks that, and what does Tara think? That maybe it would be better to have a more intimate ceremony, just close family. And I'm not close family? Of course you are, Mom. It's just that, Gabriel, am I invited to your wedding or not? The silence stretched out so long, I thought the call had dropped. Finally, his voice came through so low it was practically a whisper. Mom, it's complicated. It's not complicated at all. It's a very simple question. Am I invited to my only son's wedding? Tara thinks there might be tension. What kind of tension? She says that sometimes you can be a little critical. That was how Tara had translated my maternal concern. Every time I had ever offered an opinion, every time I had tried to give my son a piece of advice, I was slapped with the label of being critical. I understand, I said simply. Mom, please don't be mad. After the wedding, we can celebrate together, just the three of us. After the wedding, yeah, we can go out to dinner, or you can come over to the house. Gabriel, listen to me very carefully. I am not going to beg for a place in my own son's life. If you and Tara have decided that I don't belong at your special day, I accept that decision. Mom, it's not like that. It is exactly like that, and that's fine. But now I understand why you two are going through financial trouble. What do you mean? When you cut the people who love you out of your life, you cut off their support right along with it. Maybe it's time you two learned how to handle your problems on your own. You're not going to help us. The question hurt, but not for the reason he thought. It hurt because it proved he only ever called me when he needed something from me. Gabriel, I love you. I will always love you. But I can't keep being the person you only run to when you're in trouble. That's not true, Mom. When was the last time you called me just to ask how my day was? Silence. When was the last time you came over to visit without needing a favor? Silence. Think about it, Gabriel. And when you have an honest answer for me, we can talk. I hung up the phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was the first time in years I had been completely, brutally honest with my son about how I felt. Over the next few days, I watched from a distance as their situation rapidly fell apart. Through mutual friends, I heard Gabriel had been desperately hunting for a new apartment, but came up empty-handed. I also found out he applied for a bank loan and got rejected because his credit was already maxed out from the wedding debt. Tara called me 2 more times, growing more desperate and sickeningly sweeter with each ring. Mom, sweetie, she was calling me now. Have you been able to find out anything about the apartment? I told her I was doing everything I could, but things were looking incredibly difficult. Technically, it wasn't a lie. On Friday night, exactly 1 week after the phone call that changed everything, Gabriel showed up at my front door. He looked awful. He had deep, dark bags under his eyes, his hair was a mess, and his clothes were wrinkled. It was obvious he hadn't slept a full night in days. Mom, I need to talk to you. Of course, come on in. He sat on the couch where he had spent so many afternoons of his childhood, doing homework, watching TV, just existing as my kid. Right now, he looked like a complete stranger in his own childhood home. Mom, I don't know what to do. We're going to lose the apartment. The wedding is going to be a disaster. Tara is losing her mind. And how are you doing, Gabriel? I'm desperate. I've called every friend I have. I've looked everywhere. Nobody can help us. And Tara's parents, can they help? Gabriel hung his head. It turns out they don't actually have as much money as Tara made me believe. They can cover the wedding, but they can't bail us out with the apartment. Interesting. Just another little lie of Tara's dragging itself out into the light. Gabriel, I have to ask you something, and I expect a completely honest answer. Sure, Mom. Are you truly okay with shutting me out of your wedding? Gabriel closed his eyes and let out a heavy sigh. No, I'm not okay with it. Then why are you allowing it? Why? Because Tara says if I don't set strict boundaries with you, our marriage is going to have problems from day one. And you actually believe that? I don't know what to believe anymore, Mom. I just know that I love her and I want this to work. Gabriel, have you ever asked yourself why someone who claims to love you would try so hard to isolate you from the person who raised you? He didn't answer, but I saw something flicker in his eyes, a tiny crack in the wall of certainty Tara had built all around him. For the first time all week, I felt a genuine spark of hope that my son was finally starting to wake up. On Saturday morning, the day that was supposed to be Gabriel's wedding, my phone rang bright and early. It was him, and his voice was completely shattered. Mom, we canceled the wedding. What happened? We can't afford it. With the apartment issue, the massive expenses, we just can't do it. I sat up in bed, feeling a strange cocktail of heartbreak for my son and something else I barely wanted to admit. Relief. At least I wouldn't have to spend the entire day knowing Gabriel's wedding was happening without me. How is Tara handling it? Devastated, furious. She's blaming absolutely everyone for what happened. Me, and especially you. Why me? She says if you had just helped us with the apartment, none of this would have happened. The sheer audacity of this woman knew no bounds. She banned me from her wedding, treated me like absolute garbage, and then had the nerve to blame me for not fixing her mess. Gabriel, can I see you today? Can we just sit down and talk? Tara doesn't want me to. Gabriel, I cut him off firmly. I need to speak with you. Just you and me, mother to son. There was a long pause. Okay. Tara went to stay at her parents' house for a few days anyway. She's too angry to even be around me right now. Why on earth is she angry at you? Because she says I wasn't capable of fixing the problem. She said a real man would have found a way to protect his woman. Those words made my blood run cold. A real man. Gabriel had worked himself to the bone, explored every single option on the table, and she was deliberately making him feel like a total failure. Come over, sweetheart. Let's make lunch together. Gabriel walked through the door an hour later. He looked even worse than he did yesterday. It was like he had aged 5 years in a single week. While I cooked his favorite meal, breaded chicken cutlets and mashed potatoes, the exact same thing I made him on a bad day when he was little, he filled me in on the rest of the wreckage. Tara says we have to postpone the wedding until we find a cheaper place to live. But she also says she refuses to just live anywhere, that she has a certain standard to maintain. And who exactly is paying to maintain that standard? Gabriel just shrugged his shoulders. I guess I have to find a better paying job, or pick up a second one. Is she going to work too? She says once we get married, she's going to run the house. She thinks there's no point in her working if we're going to have kids soon anyway. You're having kids soon? Well, she wants to start trying the second we get back from the honeymoon. I sat down across from him, sliding his plate over. Gabriel, do you even want kids right now? Honestly, Mom, with all these money problems, I don't think it's the right time. And did you tell Tara that? I tried talking to her about it, but she just told me I was looking for excuses to avoid committing to our future. Every single word spilling out of his mouth just confirmed what I had already started to suspect. Tara wasn't just manipulative, she was vicious. She was systematically dismantling Gabriel's confidence brick by brick. Sweetheart, can I ask you something personal? Sure. Are you happy? Gabriel stopped eating and looked up at me. His eyes pooled with tears. I don't know, Mom. I thought I was, but lately, everything is just so damn complicated. There's always some new crisis. There's always something I'm doing wrong. According to who are you doing something wrong? According to Tara. She says I'm not ambitious enough, that I lack drive, that I don't fight hard enough for what I want. Gabriel, you work 50 hours a week. You graduated college with honors. You have been incredibly responsible your entire life. How is that lacking ambition? She says other guys my age already own their own houses, drive better cars. And what exactly does she bring to the table besides a list of demands? Gabriel sat in total silence for a long time. Mom, I know you don't like Tara. It's not that I don't like her, Gabriel. It's that I am terrified by the way she treats you, and it scares me that you can't see what I see. What do you see? I see my son losing his self-worth piece by piece every single day. I see a man who is constantly apologizing, constantly trying to prove he's enough, and it absolutely breaks my heart. Gabriel started to cry. He hadn't cried in front of me since he was a teenager. Mom, I just don't know what to do. I love her. But sometimes I feel like I'm never going to be the man she actually wants me to be. And has it ever crossed your mind that maybe you aren't the problem here? Before he could even answer, the doorbell rang. Gabriel quickly wiped his eyes. I'm not expecting anyone, I said, walking over to the door. When I pulled it open, Tara was standing right there on my porch. But this wasn't the perfectly polished, elegant Tara I knew. This Tara had wild hair, eyes completely bloodshot from crying, and she was wearing a wrinkled sweatsuit. Where's Gabriel? She demanded, without a hello, practically shoving past me to get inside. He's eating lunch. Tara stormed into the kitchen like a hurricane. Gabriel, what are you doing here? I explicitly told you not to come over here. I came to have lunch with my mom. Your mom, the exact same woman who refused to help us when we were drowning. The same woman who practically sabotaged our entire wedding. I felt the blood boiling in my veins. How exactly did I sabotage your wedding? Tara spun around to face me, a wild fury in her eyes I had never seen before. You knew people in that building. You could have pulled some strings. But you didn't want to, because you're insanely jealous that Gabriel chose me instead of hiding behind your skirt for the rest of his life. Tara, calm down, Gabriel said, pushing his chair back and standing up. Do not tell me to calm down, she screamed at him. Our wedding is ruined because of her. Everything is ruined because your precious mommy decided to leave us out to dry. I never promised you I could help, I said, keeping my voice dangerously calm. But you could have. I know you could have. You're just a bitter old woman who can't stand the fact that her son doesn't need her anymore. Enough, Gabriel roared. It was a sound I had never heard come out of him before. That's enough, Tara. You do not get to speak to my mother like that. Tara whipped her head toward him, her face completely twisted in rage. Oh, so now you're defending her? After everything she's done to us? What has she done? Tell me, what exact crimes has my mother committed? She hates me. She's always hated me. She tries to control you. She constantly tries to meddle in our relationship. When has she ever tried to control you or meddle? Tara was actually speechless for a second. Always with her little comments, her judgmental looks. What comments? Always asking why I don't have a job. Always probing into our future plans. Those are completely normal questions, Tara. Those are questions a mother asks when she actually cares. That's not interference. And now look what happened. We lost our apartment because of her. Right then, something snapped inside Gabriel. I could see the exact moment the glass broke behind his eyes. Tara, my mother had absolutely nothing to do with that apartment. And even if she could have helped, after the way you treated her, why the hell should she? How did I treat her? You called her a hag. You banned her from our wedding. And now you barge into her own home just to scream in her face? Tara looked at me, then back at Gabriel. I saw the raw panic flood her eyes the second she realized she had pushed it way too far. Gabriel, I didn't mean it. Yes, you did, Tara. And you know what? I'm exhausted. I am so damn tired of watching you treat the one person who has had my back my entire life like she's dirt. Gabriel, please. I think we need some time apart. The words poured out of his mouth like they had been locked in a cage, just waiting for the chance to escape. And for the first time in months, I saw my real son standing there again. After Tara stormed out of my house, sobbing and screaming that Gabriel was going to regret choosing a manipulative old woman over her, my son and I just sat there in total silence for several minutes. The air in the room was still humming with the adrenaline of the fight, but for the first time in months, I felt like I finally had my boy back. Gabriel dropped his head into his hands. Mom, I am so incredibly sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. You don't have to apologize to me, sweetheart. Yes, I do. I stood by and let her treat you like that. I let her cut you out of my life. I let her make you feel like you didn't matter, when you are the most important thing I have in this world. My eyes completely filled with tears. Those were the exact words I had been waiting so long to hear. Gabriel, we all make mistakes when we're blinded by love. This wasn't just a mistake, Mom. It was like I completely lost sight of who I even was. Tara just had this way of twisting everything, so it was always my fault. She made me feel like I was never, ever going to be enough. And now I realize the person who wasn't enough was her. She wasn't enough to be a part of this family if she couldn't even give you basic respect. We sat at that kitchen table, talking late into the night. Gabriel told me things that shattered my heart all over again. How Tara constantly picked him apart. How she compared his salary to other men. How she piled on the guilt for every single minute he spent visiting me. He also told me about the mountain of debt he had racked up just trying to keep her happy. Debt I hadn't known a thing about. Gabriel, I finally said, I have something to tell you. Something important. What is it, Mom? The moment had arrived. There was absolutely no reason to keep the secret anymore. The apartment where you live with Tara, the St. Martin building? Yeah? I own it. Gabriel stared at me like I was speaking a foreign language. What? I am the landlord. I inherited the entire building from your Aunt Eleanor 5 years ago, along with a few other properties. You own the apartment I live in. I do. Gabriel stood up, pacing back and forth across the living room. But the rent hike, the property managers, I authorized the increase before I even knew you lived there. But once I found out, I decided to let it ride. Why didn't you just tell me? At first, because I wanted it to be my safety net for retirement. I didn't want you to ever feel burdened with taking care of me. And then, after the way Tara treated me, I wanted to see if the two of you would learn to appreciate what you actually had. Gabriel sat back down, his hands trembling just a little. Mom, do you realize what this means? What does it mean? It means Tara was literally begging you to solve a problem that you could have fixed with one simple phone call. It means all these days of pure anxiety, all these sleepless nights, could have vanished in an instant if she had just been a decent human being. My God. Gabriel buried his face in his hands. And I let her treat you like dirt, knowing damn well we were going to end up crawling to you for help. Gabriel, I need you to understand something. I didn't keep that rent increase to torture you. I kept it because Tara desperately needed to learn that her actions have consequences. So what happens now? Now you have to decide what you want to do. You can stay in the apartment, I'll reverse the rent hike. And Tara? That is entirely your call, sweetheart. But if you choose to stay with her, her attitude toward me has to change permanently. I am never tolerating that level of disrespect in my family again. Gabriel nodded slowly. Mom, I think I've already made my decision about Tara. Are you sure? When I saw her screaming at you today, when I saw the sheer hatred in her eyes, I realized she isn't the woman I want to spend the rest of my life with. I can't love someone who actively hates the person I love most in this world. I felt a massive, suffocating weight lift right off my shoulders. The next few days were an absolute whirlwind. Gabriel told Tara the relationship was over. She, of course, did not take it well. She called me half a dozen times, swinging wildly between pathetic begging and furious threats. Pauline, you have to talk to Gabriel. He is making the biggest mistake of his entire life. Tara, Gabriel is a grown man. His decisions are his own. You manipulated him. You brainwashed him against me. I didn't have to brainwash anyone, Tara. You did a fantastic job showing him exactly who you really are, all by yourself. This isn't over. I am going to fight for him. You can fight all you want, but it's not going to change the fact that you completely lost his respect. I even got a phone call from Tara's parents. Her mother, trying her best to sound diplomatic, asked me to reconsider the whole mess. Mrs. Vega, I understand there have been some misunderstandings here, but Tara truly loves Gabriel. Ma'am, if your daughter truly loved Gabriel, she would have respected his mother. A woman who tries to isolate a man from his family doesn't love him. She just wants to own him. Tara is young. Sometimes she blurts things out without thinking. Ma'am, your daughter called me a hag and banned me from my own son's wedding. That isn't youth. That is calculated cruelty. There were no more phone calls after that one. A week later, Gabriel came over with a smile I hadn't seen on his face in months. Mom, I have a proposal for you. What is it? How would you feel if I moved back in here with you for a little while? Just until I figure out what I want to do with my life. Are you sure I don't want you to feel like you're taking a step backward? It's not a step backward, Mom. It's coming home. Back to the place where I was always valued and loved unconditionally. You will always have a place here, Gabriel. This is your home. And Mom? Yes. Thank you for not telling me about the building right away. Thank you for letting me learn the lesson the hard way. You're not angry I kept the secret? Honestly, no. I realized that if you had told me from the jump, I probably would have thought you were just using it to control my life. But finding out like this, I finally understand that you've always been protecting me, even when I didn't deserve it. That night, while Gabriel was packing up the last of his things from the apartment, Tara had already moved back in with her parents. I called the property management company. I want to reverse the rent increase on Unit 402. Are you absolutely sure, Mrs. Vega? We've already sent out the official notice. I'm sure. The tenant has proven to be incredibly reliable. Very well. Any special instructions? Yes. If at any point in the future a Miss Tara Ruiz tries to get added to a lease or attempts to rent any unit in that building, the answer is a hard no. Understood. When Gabriel walked through the door that night with his suitcases, he pulled me into a long, tight hug. Mom, I feel like I can finally breathe again. You know what, sweetheart? What? Me too. For the first time in months. I slept like a rock that night. My boy was home. He had learned a brutal but necessary lesson about respect and what real love actually looks like. And Tara was permanently out of our lives. But I knew in my gut it wasn't truly over. Women like Tara don't just quietly surrender. I had a sneaking suspicion there would be one final, desperate attempt to claw back what she thought belonged to her. 3 months rolled by since Gabriel moved back in. They were easily the happiest 3 months I had lived in years. My son got his smile back, his confidence back, and most importantly, he found his self-respect again. He was no longer the insecure, constantly apologizing shell of a man Tara had molded him into. He was the Gabriel I raised, kind but firm, considerate but nobody's doormat. He landed a new job, one that paid significantly better than his old one, and he started hanging out with the friends he had lost touch with during his time with Tara. It was like watching him come back to life. One Thursday afternoon, I was out in the front yard watering the flower beds when the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, I was staring at a woman I didn't even recognize at first. She was incredibly thin, with dark sunken circles under her eyes, wearing sloppy, oversized clothes. It took me a solid 5 seconds to realize it was Tara. "Pauline, I really need to talk to you." Her voice was completely different. That trademark arrogance was entirely gone. She just sounded broken, desperate. "What do you want, Tara? Please just let me come inside. 5 minutes, that's all." Against my better judgment, I pushed the door open and let her in. She sat right on the edge of the living room sofa, her hands shaking in her lap. "Gabriel won't answer any of my calls. Gabriel is busy living his life. Pauline, I realize I made some mistakes." Mistakes. I couldn't stop the sarcastic little smile from creeping onto my face. Is that what we're calling months of psychological abuse and humiliation now? I was just so stressed out about the wedding, the money problems. I wasn't myself. "No, Tara, that was exactly who you are. Stress doesn't magically create cruelty, it just reveals it." Tara started to openly weep. "I lost everything. Gabriel, the apartment, my dream wedding. My parents are completely disgusted with me. I have absolutely nothing left." "And what exactly do you want me to do about it?" "I want you to talk to Gabriel. Please, just tell him I've changed. Tell him I deserve one more chance." I sat down across from her, studying her pathetic face. "Do you honestly believe you've changed? Or are you just panicking because you finally lost control of the game?" "I have changed. I swear to God I've changed." Tara, when someone actually changes, they don't show up at their victim's door demanding favors. They show up to apologize, fully expecting absolutely nothing in return. She went dead silent for a long moment. "Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I called you a hag. I'm sorry I banned you from the wedding. I'm sorry for all of it." "Are you sorry because you finally comprehend the damage you caused? Or are you sorry because you want your meal ticket back?" "Both." That answer tells me everything I could possibly need to know. Tara stood up violently. "You are completely impossible. You're never going to forgive me, are you?" "Forgiveness is earned, Tara. It is not demanded. And you haven't done a single damn thing to earn it." "What do you want me to do, crawl on my hands and knees?" "I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to understand that actions have consequences. And this time, those consequences are permanent." Her eyes flooded with pure, unadulterated fury. "This is revenge. This is straight-up revenge because you could never stomach the fact that Gabriel chose me." "No, Tara. This is justice. And the difference is revenge seeks to destroy. Justice seeks to protect." "Protect who?" "Protect my son from a woman who actively tore him down. Protect myself from someone who treated me like garbage. And protect you from making the exact same fatal mistakes with the next guy." Tara marched toward the front door but stopped with her hand on the knob. "Gabriel is going to find someone else." "I certainly hope so." "And when he does, you'll do the exact same thing to her. You'll find a way to rip them apart." "No, Tara. When Gabriel finds a woman who actually respects him and respects me, I will be the very first person in line to give them my blessing." "How can you be so sure?" "Because a woman who genuinely loves Gabriel isn't going to spend her time trying to isolate him from the people who love him. She'll want to know me. She'll want to build a family, not burn one to the ground." Tara yanked the door open and turned back one last time. You are going to regret this. No, Tara. You are the one who's going to live with regret. Not just because you lost Gabriel, but because you had no idea what his value was until he was gone. After the door slammed shut, I sat alone in my living room, feeling a bizarre mix of sorrow and total relief. Sorrow because a tiny, naive part of me had hoped she really did find some redemption. Relief because it confirmed that stepping in to protect my son was the absolute right call. That night when Gabriel got home from work, I told him about the little surprise visit. How did it feel seeing her? He asked quietly. I felt sad for her, honestly, but I felt rock solid in my position. What about you? Are you upset I didn't push her to reconcile with you? Gabriel just shook his head. Mom, it's been 3 months since I've had to live under her constant microscope. It's been 3 months since I woke up feeling like a complete failure. 3 months of just being myself without having to apologize for it. There is absolutely nothing she could offer me that's worth trading that kind of peace. You don't miss her at all. I miss the fantasy of what I thought we could be. I don't miss the reality of what we actually were. 6 months after the dust settled, Gabriel met Chloe at work. Chloe was sweet, incredibly sharp, with a warm, genuine smile and a laugh that filled up the whole room. The very first time he brought her over to meet me, the difference was like night and day. Chloe asked me actual questions about my life. She showed a real, authentic interest in getting to know me. When she noticed the pictures of Gabriel on the walls, she practically begged me to tell her stories about him growing up. There was zero tension, no weird, unspoken competition, just kind curiosity and total respect. Your son is a wonderful man, she told me while we were drying the dishes after dinner. It's so obvious you raised him right. He's my absolute pride and joy, I smiled. I really hope we can be friends. Gabriel told me you two are incredibly close, and I think that's beautiful. A man who loves his mother is a man who knows how to love a wife. Right then and there, I knew Chloe was the real deal. She didn't look at my bond with my son as some kind of threat. She saw it as proof of his character. A year later, Gabriel and Chloe got engaged. This time, there was no toxic drama, no secret guest lists, no tears of humiliation. Chloe actually insisted that I help her plan the wedding. I want it to feel like your special day too, she told me. You're the reason Gabriel is the man I fell in love with. On the day of the wedding, as I stood by the dance floor watching Gabriel spin Chloe around for their first dance as husband and wife, a profound, unshakable peace settled over my heart. My son had finally found someone who truly loved him, someone who understood that loving Gabriel meant embracing his entire world. Chloe walked over to my table during the reception. Pauline, thank you. For what, sweetheart? For raising such a good man, for protecting him when he was too blind to protect himself, and for refusing to let him settle for a fraction of what he deserved. He told you about Tara? He told me everything, and I understand exactly why you played the cards you did. You don't think I was too ruthless? I think you were a mother protecting her cub, and if I'm lucky enough to have kids one day, I pray to God I'm brave enough to do the exact same thing. Later that night, long after the last guests had drifted out, Gabriel and Chloe came over to say their goodbyes before heading off on their honeymoon. Mom, Gabriel said, wrapping me in a massive bear hug, thank you for not letting me sign my life away to misery. Sweetheart, you deserve to be loved completely, respected completely, and valued for exactly who you are. Don't you ever settle for a penny less. I never will again. And Mom? Yeah? I am so sorry you had to be the strong one when I was too weak to stand up for myself. That's exactly what mothers are for, Gabriel. We carry the heavy things until you're strong enough to carry them yourself. Now, 2 years down the line, Gabriel and Chloe live in a beautiful house they bought together just 10 minutes down the road from me. They come over for dinner every single Sunday. Chloe calls me Mom, and every time she says it, I know she means it in her bones. They're expecting their first baby, and Chloe is already insisting she wants me in the delivery room. Every now and then, I think about Tara. I wonder how life shook out for her. I heard through the grapevine that she packed up, moved to another state, and married some other guy. I genuinely hope she learned how to be a better human being. I don't hold any grudges, but I also don't have the slightest urge to ever see her face again. But what I do know with absolute certainty is that I made the right call. Sometimes protecting the people you love means saying no. Sometimes it means standing your ground when caving in would be so much easier. And sometimes it means being perfectly willing to play the villain, just to stop them from making a mistake that will cost them their entire future. Gabriel is happy. Truly, deeply, radiantly happy. And so am I. I have my son back. I have a daughter-in-law who loves and respects me. And pretty soon I'm going to have a grandchild to spoil. There is a very specific kind of peace that washes over you when you know you fought the hard fight for the right reasons. There is a deep, quiet satisfaction in watching brutal decisions blossom into beautiful blessings. And there is a freedom like nothing else on earth in knowing that I will never, ever have to tolerate disrespect in my own family again. That's my story. It's not a tale of petty revenge. It's a love story. A love strong enough to draw a line in the sand, wise enough to spot the difference between what's real and what's poison, and brave enough to burn a few bridges to protect the things that actually matter. Because sometimes the greatest act of love in the world is simply saying no.